something really interesting is happening in the Yakima real estate market right now. Homes are sitting longer and buyers suddenly have more choices, and yet prices haven't actually dropped. So what's really going on? Because depending on what price range you're in, the market right now could either feel incredibly competitive or incredibly slow. And by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you which homes in Yakima are still selling quickly and which ones are struggling. So if you're thinking about buying or selling in Yakima this year, you know exactly how to position yourself well. So let's dive into those February numbers. Now, if we haven't met yet, I'm Corie Burke. I'm a realtor here in Yakima, Washington, and every month we break down what actually is happening in the housing market locally. Not just the headlines, not the hype, just the numbers and what they actually mean if you're buying or selling, or you're just trying to understand what's happening with housing in Yakima. So before we talk about Yakima specifically, I do want to talk about the national housing market and the national housing conversation, because the headlines have been confusing lately. Over the past month, there were a few stories that really stood out to me, and they really dominated real estate news. First, mortgage rates actually dipped again. They briefly fell below 6% for the first time in a while. That matters because rates have been one of the biggest factors slowing the housing market nationally. And lower rates bring buyers back. But here's the twist. Even though rates have improved a bit, home sales nationally are still slower than normal. There is more inventory coming on the market, which means buyers have more options and sellers have more competition. Another interesting trend that analysts have been watching is that Google searches for phrases like "can't sell my house" have really spiked recently. Now, that doesn't mean that homes aren't selling, but it does mean that sellers are really starting to realize the market isn't quite as easy as it was a few years ago. And that shift is definitely showing up in Yakima too. So let's now talk about what's happening here locally. So looking at the latest local numbers for the Upper Valley market, the first thing that jumps out really is that inventory is increasing. There are more homes on the market right now than there were at this time last year, which means buyers have more choices. And when buyers have choices, the market starts behaving a little bit differently. Now, the second thing we're seeing is that homes are taking longer to sell. The average days on market is now close to 3 months. Now, that doesn't mean that homes are sitting forever, but it does mean that pricing and preparation matter a lot more than they did in the frenzy market a couple of years ago. The third thing that is interesting is pricing trends. Active listing prices are actually up compared to last year, but sold prices are a little bit more mixed, which tells us something really important. The market is becoming more selective. Buyers are still willing to pay strong prices, but only when the home is well priced, well presented, and in the right location. So this is where the market gets really interesting, because right now the Yakima market isn't behaving the same at every price point. It's different depending on how high or low you go in the price. There's a pretty clear divide forming actually. Homes roughly between $225,000 and $425,000 are still moving relatively quickly. Those homes tend to have the highest demand because they fall into the core affordability range for many buyers. But once you move above that range, the market really starts to slow down. Inventory starts climbing, the homes are taking longer to sell, and that doesn't mean that high-priced homes aren't selling. They absolutely are, but buyers in those price points tend to be even more selective and even less rushed because they usually already have a home that they own. So what we're really seeing right now is that the market is kind of sorting itself out. Homes that are priced correctly and that show well to buyers are still selling, and homes that are overpriced or need more work are definitely sitting longer. Now, what does this mean if you're looking to buy? If you're a buyer right now, the shift really creates some really great opportunities, because compared to the last few years, you have a lot more leverage, more homes to choose from, and more room to negotiate things like repairs, credits, or even interest rate buydowns. But there's still a really, really important caveat here. The good homes, the ones that are well priced and move-in ready, can really still attract strong interest in even multiple offers. So buyers really need to balance being patient with being ready to move quickly when the right home appears. Now, what does this mean for sellers? So if you're thinking about selling this year, strategy matters more than ever. If you've been watching for a while, you've heard me say that a few times. A few years ago, almost any home would sell quickly. Today, the homes that perform best are the ones that price correctly from the start and show really well. They also need to have strong marketing. And when sellers get those 3 things right, homes still sell. But when the pricing is too aggressive or when the home is not prepared, well, the market is really quick to push back. And that is your warning sign that you priced too high, because that's where we see those listings sitting longer. Now, I want to talk about one other interesting thing happening locally here. Yakima City planners have been continuing work around housing strategy and planning changes aimed at increasing housing options in the future. So those kinds of discussions don't change the market overnight, that's for sure, but they can change housing supply over the next several years. And supply is one of the biggest long-term drivers of housing prices. So now, if we go back to the question from the beginning, why does the market feel so different right now? It's because we're in a transition phase. The market is not crashing, but it is becoming much more selective. Buyers have more options and sellers need stronger strategy. And the homes that are positioned correctly are still doing very well. So if you want to talk about what these numbers mean for your specific situation, whether you're buying, selling, or relocating to Yakima, you can call, text, or email me anytime. And if you want to stay updated on what's happening in the local Yakima housing market, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I also send out a local market newsletter, so if you'd like to be added to that, just let me know. If you like this video and you want to show some appreciation, like, share, subscribe, and YouTube thinks you might like this video over here up next. See you in the next one.